Seshadri Chari heads foreign affairs for the BJP. Maruf Raza, strategic affairs analyst, and Veena Sikri, former diplomat. My first question is to the Congress representative on Newshour Tonight. Sanjay Jha, on what basis, with whose permission, and using which right has your government gifted away 640 square kilometers to China?
It's our government, Arnav. That's the first clarification. It's also your government. The pertinent point, Arnav, is slightly different. And that's a reality that we need to really face. That this is, in the world, is the longest disputed frontier ever. We all know that. And I think the basic problem in the India-China relationship, I was following your interview with Mr. Salman Khurshid, our External Affairs Minister, earlier, when he was very clear that, this is an issue on which we need to be, to use his own words, cautious and vigilant. But the fact, and I think we need to put this in historical context, is that we have approximately 3,488 kilometers of our own neighboring line that we are not very clear on both sides as to what really should be the
it's not as general as that. Sanjay, it's not as general as that. No, it's not as general as that. Prime Minister had told Shyam Saran, and Shyam Saran, you see, Sanjay, I'll tell you. Sanjay, you see, when the media reports it, your first line of defense was it's all lies. Then, when we kept reporting it, then your second line of defense was it is all hype. Now, when the facts emerge, now your line of argument is, well, not much really can be done about it. It's part of an ongoing dispute. I'm asking Seshadri Chari this evening to come into the debate. Do you think this can be played down anymore, Mr. Chari, with the revelations of Shyam Saran?
Let me finish my
Let's get the rebut and come back to you. Shyam Saran. Seshadri Chari, I come back to you. Seshadri Chari.
Arnav, this is absolutely dangerous. What we are doing, what this government is doing, it's all right, it is our government or your government is not the issue. I think this government is working on the script that has been prepared probably by China, and they are acting probably at the behest of China. I'll tell you why I'm saying this. This is a very serious thing. In April this year, and this has been reported by the Times of India, April this year, the US and Japanese Navy approached India for a joint operation and patrolling in the Pacific area. Government of India should have accepted that offer. Instead of accepting that offer, they specifically said that we have to keep the Chinese sensibilities in the view, and keeping the Chinese sensibilities in the view, we will carry out some such operations in a geopolitically less sensitive area. What do they mean? Is this government of India or this is an extension of the government of China? Are they speaking on behalf of the PLA or they are speaking on behalf of the Indian army which is fighting at the borders? And the Shyam Saran report has been asked by the Prime Minister of this country.
Absolutely.
The report has been submitted to the Prime Minister on August 10th.
Yeah.
And the report very clearly says that the PLA allows the Indian army to only go to that space, and the Indian army limits itself to the area which is told to it by the PLA. What a bloody shame!
How shameful this is! How shameful is this? And how shameful is this? And the point is, on top of it, I demand today, Sanjay Jha, that your government, actually our government, everyone's government, but not also your government. So I don't know why you took offense when I said your government. You see, it's also your government. In any case, unless you disown the government today, unless the Congress party disowns the government, there is no need for you to correct me when I say it's your government. I say we lose access to the several parts of the LAC. Maruf, it is the responsibility of this government to take the media to tell us the truth of the Daulat Beg Oldie sector, the Depsang Bulge and Chumar. This report is with the Cabinet Committee on Security, and it's been reported that Shyam Saran has said that the limits of patrol line has become the new LAC for India in certain parts of the Ladakh sector. How serious is that, Maruf?
Arnab, it's an extremely serious situation, and in fact, if we don't stand up for our own sovereignty and our territory, even the Burmese are beginning to encroach into Indian territory in Manipur and neighboring areas of our borders, purely because they are being goaded on by the Chinese. And in fact, in my recent conversation with some diplomats in Delhi, they are beginning to say that clearly all this is sign of a very, very passive government in New Delhi at this point of time. And the Pakistanis are entering our border, killing our soldiers. The Chinese are drawing a line which goes completely contrary to our claim line. If Mr. Jha's position is that the Chinese claim line is to be respected, then what are we debating with the Chinese about? We should settle the border dispute. But the fact of the matter is our claim line runs almost 20-25 kilometers on the other side. And if there was no dispute, we would not have had a conflict in 62. We would not have had a confrontation in 67 when a Grenadier battalion stood up to the Chinese intrusions in Nathula. We would not have had General Sundarji put troops into Samdrangchu and got the Chinese to back out. Now let me give you 3 quick points. Point 1, China has a tendency to nibble away at territory. It pushes its lucks with its neighbors. It did that with Vietnam. Went there to teach them a lesson, learnt a lesson or two. Even a pacifist Japan now has begun to stand up to the Chinese. And we seem to be becoming more pacifist than a pacifist Japan. You look at China, what they are doing with other countries. They settled a border dispute with the Russians because they felt they could demobilize 1 million troops.
I find Maruf,
and they could demobilize 1 million troops and put money into their economy. What I am trying to bring out, Arnab, that China has very clearly been told by the MEA, not now but for decades, that let's have a deal. You do what you want in Aksai Chin, but don't enter into Arunachal because that is settled area. And China is stretching its luck in Aksai Chin to the point that they are going beyond the accepted line. And even the Pakistanis who have seceded territory to the Chinese are being told by Beijing now to shut up and keep quiet in the Shakskam area. So any defense of the government's line that the Chinese are doing the right thing and we should tread softly with them, believe me, is an embarrassment for this country.
Maruf, I demand now, and I'm saying it again, I demand that the government of India allow the media access to the LAC, where we are here reporting this grim scenario emerging in the Daulat Beg Oldie, Depsang Balj and Chumar sector. I demand that the government realize this is not some private dispute. I hope Veena Sikri, the diplomatic community of which you have been a senior member, will now realize that this is not some private dispute. You know, they can't pull wool over the eyes of the whole country anymore. I mean, we demand a serious answer from the government on whether we have lost access to several parts of the LAC. And if we have, why is the Prime Minister of India quiet about it? Why is the Foreign Minister quiet about it? Why is the Defence Minister hiding it?
I agree with you. I agree with you, Arnab. I think there is time for a major public debate on this issue for more than one reason. We have seen in recent years a greater assertiveness on the part of China. As far as India is concerned, I think this began in 2005 when the Indo-US nuclear deal and other improvements in the relationship with the US began to be negotiated. But between then and now, we have seen a significant aggressiveness, increase in the aggressiveness of the Chinese position in various bilateral issues, but particularly on the border. And this increased assertiveness is reflected in other areas. In the South China Sea, you have seen it. With Japan, you have seen it. And so this is a part of Chinese national policy to assert themselves internationally, perhaps to hide internal weaknesses, perhaps to bring up the issue of jingoism with their own people and get them to rally around the Communist Party, and so on. But I think there is another important point that is happening within India, for which it is important to have a public debate on this crucial issue. And that is that within India, public opinion is turning massively against China, and many people are writing letters and so on. Don't buy anything Chinese.
Why not?
And yes, that is a natural reaction because the people are very perturbed. So that is why there is a need to have public awareness, debate in Parliament. The Parliament should be brought in a full picture on what is happening, and the nation as a whole should know. There is also a factor that India's internal weakness or economic weakness, declining economic position, that is making China more and more assertive and making them be aggressive in areas where there was never any dispute.
The question is this. You see, Sanjay Jha, let me put it to you very straightforward manner. You see these peaceniks. You know, peaceniks in your government, my government, peaceniks in the government, Sanjay. They play this down. And the peaceniks in the government are trying to hide the facts from the entire country. And they tried to use English in the past. They tried to say this is acne. Some people said these media reports are not true. I am asking you today to answer Maruf and Seshadri Chari, who have both leveled the accusation at your government, that can you afford to have the same nonchalant attitude about this report, given that it is coming from the National Security Advisory Board chairperson Sham Saran at the behest of the Prime Minister of India? Whatever your peaceniks, Shiv Shankar Men and others may want to do, they must have, we want disclosure now. We want full disclosure of the facts and access on the ground.
Yeah, sure. Adam, now just give me a few minutes to respond, because you asked me a question and then you moved to the other panelists for a rebut when I hadn't even finished. So let me first respond to Mr. Chari. He represents a party where one of his senior leaders has a policy of 10 heads for one. So I'm not going to respond to his rhetorical excesses. As far as what Maruf said is absolutely true, that as far as China is concerned, if one notices all its recent geopolitical conflicts, it has had issues with Japan, and it has some territorial border problems with several of its neighbors.
Disclosure and access is what we're talking about.
Coming back to our point.
Disclosure and access. Why don't no, we want disclosure.
I'm glad that you acknowledge.
We want the disclosure. Have we lost the LAC?
I'm glad that you acknowledge.
Have we lost
large
large parts of the
acknowledges.
LAC?
I'm glad that everybody acknowledges. But Arnav, why aren't we first acknowledging and accepting that the Prime Minister and the government of this country is giving it the highest priority, which is why it has got a
irrelevant. Your claims of highest priority make no difference.
That we're discussing.
Makes no difference.
Makes no difference because it tells
Jawaharlal Nehru gave China full priority before the 62 aggression.
I think in our policy.
No, 1 second, Sanjay, first of all, let me tell you. No, 1 minute. Jawaharlal Nehru,
with respect to China and Pakistan, has so far been successful. You cannot just contradict and rubbish it as a bad policy.
Well,
number two, you will get an official communique on this from the Minister.
Again, you are dodging. Again, you are
from
dodging.
the Ministry of External Affairs and the Minister of Defence.
How much
but you're not letting me finish, Arnav.
How much are you
I'm
dodging?
trying to give you an answer. The truth of life that I think everybody in India and China acknowledge is that until our border dispute with the line of actual control is resolved, our relationships will be to some extent frosty. And that is the reason why you find that every time
generalities. I don't think that's an answer. No, I don't think Sanjay Jha. No, Sanjay, I am saying today. No, I am saying.
Arnav, I am sorry to say we are wasting time here.